Well, welcome everyone. We're super excited about this training today. You're getting really a multifaceted interview today because you're going to not only get to meet one of our amazing speakers for our summit, but also get some juicy training today. And I want to welcome none other than Zach Beach, Wicked Smart. Zach, how are you doing today?
Jen, I appreciate you having me on here. I'm really excited. I'm doing fantastic. Anytime we get to spend time together, it puts me in a good mindset. So I'm happy to dive in and give as much value as possible to your audience.
Well, I love it. And we know that we're talking to many home stagers, designers, realtors out here in our community, and they're super excited about our upcoming home staging and real estate summit. That is the second weekend in November. You guys will have all the information. We know our keynote, one of our amazing keynotes is going to be none other than Sharon Lecter, and Zach Beach is gonna bring it just as much as Sharon, and he's gonna be giving practical information. So guys, get your tickets now. Once I know you get to hear Zach's story, you're going to want to be a part. You're going to want to be in his session and hearing all how you can also be wicked smart when it comes to real estate. So Zach, tell us a little bit about your story here and how you got even into real estate and, some owner financing and some creative financing when it comes to ownership of real estate.
Well, Jen, I appreciate and am humbled to be in the same sentence as Sharon Lecter, obviously, but I'm very excited to spend some time with her on stage as well. So my story starts as really being and growing up as a lower middle class gentleman in a really rich town. I always had that chip on my shoulder. Me and my single mother, who took amazing care of me, but also was a cashier at Lowe's and worked for a small business. So it wasn't like we had any of this financial training or real estate training. A lot of that stuff I had to acquire by linking arms with some additional people, including my family here. And that's where we ended up building out Smart Real Estate Coach, or as you guys know, Wicked Smart. But if I fast forward there, I was a bartender and personal trainer up until I was about 24 years old. And my wife and I both did the exact same thing, and we were burning the candles on both ends. And as you can imagine, staying up late and then waking up extremely early in those two industries gets a bit tiresome. So what I actually did is I reached out to my father-in-law, Chris, who recently had a reset in his real estate business. He was a broker owner and did a lot of different other real estate investments. But then got crushed in 2008. So he reset his business right about the same time, or about 2 years earlier from when I decided to join him. What I simply did is I reached out to Chris and said, hey, I don't know if I'm going to like real estate, but it's going to be a heck of a lot better than this. So I say that and position that because many of you are either looking to get involved in real estate or have been in a business that's been affected by a current change in the industry, similar to that 2008 crash, or similar to just burning the candle on both ends like myself and my wife. So I dove into that, and about 6 months later, I ended up doing my first real estate transaction. It was a subject to deal, which for many of you that don't know, that's one of our creative methods. And really, it's just leveraging the current debt or mortgage that's on the property and you not having to go get a new loan. So I ended up doing that. And then, and that kind of started my real estate career. I've been in it now going on about 8 years, and I've done hundreds of real estate deals now with our personal buying and selling entities, with my family, but also now we partner and teach people across the country how to buy and sell real estate in our very particular niche, which is an amazing niche because it really lowers the barrier of entry getting involved in real estate. Because what we focus on is buying real estate without utilizing our own cash, without utilizing our own credit, without going to get bank loans. And we do that through a couple different financial techniques, creative financing techniques. And then what we then do is we help out the largest population of buyers out there, which are buyers that need time in order to qualify for loans. There's roughly 60 to 80% of buyers out there that want to become homeowners that cannot simply walk into a bank and get a loan. So we provide, as far as our exit strategy, the ability for these buyers to now work on their credit, work on seasoning if they're self-employed, and put them in a position where they can become a homeowner where they did not see a path to homeownership. So leading up to now, 8 years later, I'm just excited to go ahead and spend some time with you guys at the summit and really teach you guys the nitty gritty on how to really get involved in creative financing, no matter where you are, no matter how much money you have in your bank, no matter what your credit looks like, no matter if you're bankable or not, and for you to be able to really create 3 paydays through our trademark 3 payday system on every single deal, because who the heck likes getting paid once when you get paid 3 times?
There you go. There you go. And for many of you, you're like, what the heck does this have to do with home staging, design? Like, I'm in this niche. But what we always have to realize is we are in the real estate playground, right? We may be in the stage or sandbox, but we need to figure out what the investors are doing. We need to figure out how we can integrate our services. And when you think about, not only are you helping someone get out of maybe a sticky situation with their, whatever reason they're trying to sell a property, but now all of a sudden you're also helping the other end of people that need a property, need home ownership, want and desire. Nobody's taking advantage of anybody in this whole situation. And guess what? To make that an attractive home, we need staging. And guess who else? When you start working with investors, you start putting yourself in rooms as business owners, those people need staging. Those people need design. They need, before a hammer hits the nail, to say, hey, let's think about some design, some finishes, if we are doing any kind of updates or upgrades during this process. So there's so many opportunities to insert our services. But Zach, you're with me that we've got to be the business. We have to have multiple streams of income. This is a legacy play. And for many people, would you say fear stops them? I mean, what stops them from taking advantage of some of these creative financing situations?
Yeah, I love that you brought this to the forefront, because when we look at our genius model and what we coach every single one of our students, so we lock arms with a select group of people and we do deals with them as a quasi partnership in their market. So it's really about helping you build and scale your business. But one of the major factors in our genius model is the mindset. And there's really 3 pieces that we focus on. You have your overcoming fears, because there's going to be very specific fears that when you step into, so if you're in design right now and you're like, oh, okay, I want to step into this new business, well, you're going to have fears that come to play. If you're listening to Jana right now and you're just looking to get into design, well, you're also going to have fears that come into play there as well. So helping overcoming fears, then looking at people's current beliefs, because there's some beliefs that help you and there's some beliefs that hurt you. And the majority of the time, if we unpack those beliefs, that there's typically no facts that actually correlate to that belief. It's what you've been told or it's what you perceive. And then the last is your behaviors. And how are we going to insert good behaviors so that way you can become a business owner and be able to create this multi-generational wealth. And then once we work on that mindset, then we're going to start diving into the skill set, which tends to fall in between how to speak with sellers, how to handle the seller side of the transaction, then how do you handle the buyer side of the transaction, which is the second piece. And then the third, which is really when you talk about multi-generational wealth, is how to control a portfolio, the skill sets around there. Because there's a term that we call, and it's called wealth stacking. And really what that means is once you have constructed a deal that's in your portfolio, well, now you have the ability to create more profits from that deal by simply maneuvering in some of these deals. And all of the deals that we're talking about here through creative means in our traditional way of exiting, and we can certainly talk about how you can incorporate STRs and multifamilies as well. These are 3 to 7 to 10 to 20-year deals. Some of them even last than 30 years if you want to stay in it. So when you talk about multi-generational wealth, I purchased a couple of properties recently. And my son is about 4 years old right now. I have a 4 and a 2-year-old. And if we decide to hold on to this property because it has a 20-year term on it, my son is going to get paid on that deal. So it's just, if you're really talking about building a business that you can step off the treadmill one day, buying creatively and exiting these types of ways can really put you in that great position. Let me hit on a different piece. Then when we're talking about multifamilies and STRs, the way I would focus on this is we want to give you additional tools. That way you can acquire more assets, and it doesn't matter how you want to exit the deal. That's up to you. Because I was having a deep conversation with this team, and they were thinking about which direction they want to go in. Do they want to go short-term rental arbitrage, or do they want to go potentially the creative financing route? And I simply told them, you don't have to go one way. What we want to do is we want to open up your ability to buy as much real estate as you can. And you tend to be limited in certain real estate niches by the amount of money that you can either raise, the amount of money that you can go to a bank and get lended on. What we're showing you here is that barrier is not there. So when you go ahead and you start your marketing and you start going out and looking to acquire assets, once you acquire a piece of asset, if it's a good fit for STR, all right, well, and you got the terms that are set up for that, well, great. Now you run as an STR, and then later on, if you want to decide to sell it, well, then you have multiple different ways you can sell it. If you want to run it as a rent to own, you have the ability to do that. If you want to go ahead and acquire us, we purchased a couple small multis, the 4 to 6 units, up to 10 typically works really great because they're mom and pop businesses. Then you can go ahead and run them as long-term rentals or short-term rentals in that multi as well. So it's really about how you now perceive acquiring assets, and then how you can exit these assets. But in our model, it's really how do you work directly with a seller and create the terms that make sense, so you can either control the asset or you can go ahead and own the asset, and then you can decide whatever you want to do with it afterwards.
Oh, I love that. Well, as you're talking, Zach, I have just now, I'm like, I have to be one of your case studies, because you and I met, of course, through Clubhouse. We've attended multiple events together, and we've sat through your classes, and I'm like, okay, our community needs to meet Zach. And we've also interviewed you in the past because you've got some incredible programs. Well, I want to be able to proof of concept, like for our industry, somebody that's coming in, and you have so many success stories. There is no doubt about it. You are literally building legacy with people as we speak. And so for us, sometimes it's like, okay, we want to get in the deal. We want to get our feet wet. We want to make sure that people understand this is not just some hypothetical situation. This is reality. And what I love that you said was, we want to own as many assets. We want to own real estate. And it's funny, Sharon Lecter, we were listening to her at 10X Ladies, and she's like, assets are sexy. That's my favorite word, is assets. We have to build assets. That's going to be something that is the legacy play for our kids, for their kids. When you have all of these options, and you have a certain property that fits a certain model, like what type of property model do you want to put that specific property for? Is this an STR play? Is this a long-term rental play? Is this a refi option? Down the road, like, is this a partner, an ideal property for me to bring in partners with? Because it's a big thing. I'm thinking right now of an incredible situation we've just heard on. It's kind of an off-market deal, and I'm like, oh, I need to talk to Zach about this, because it is big. It is a big opportunity. And would you say that, like, starting conversation, we know you have the program to do it, like, it's about when to say, what to say on what property, but is it just making it such a sweet deal that it's a win-win for everyone? You think about 3 paydays. Those paydays come when it's a win-win for everyone, right?
Oh, I completely agree with you. The funny thing is, it's less about when to say and what to say. It's more about what to ask. We are in a relationship business. We just happen to deal with real estate. It is all about really solving and understanding people's challenges. Because the first question I always get asked is, all right, well, people can, it's a quote unquote hot market right now. People can go out and sell their house traditionally. And I said, yeah, that's true, but not every single challenge can be solved by the traditional sale. And not every single person wants to go the traditional route. And in some situations, we've seen that a lot of people can go the traditional route, but they choose to go a creative route because we have solved their challenge. We have understood their current challenge. What most investors, or even most just new investors, tend to fall apart on is they stop at surface level motivation and don't go deep level motivation, which never gives them the ability to structure a deal because they don't know what challenge they're solving. They're just taking it at face value. So yes, part of it is the scripts and understanding the tools that you have in your tool belt and how the deal can be structured. And that certainly comes over time. We call them transaction engineers. That's when you understand and have come across a lot of different types of motivations, a lot of different moving parts, and then you know how to insert and to structure that deal so that way you create a win situation for the seller, for the buyer, and then of course, then you get paid. There's a reason why our deals, typically you go with no money down, so it's an infinite return, or there'd be little money down, and we're able to create big profits on them. On average, if I look across our students across the country, $50,000 all 3 paydays, and so that comes over, say, an average of, say, 2 to 4 years, or up to 250,000 plus in some of these owner financing, these deals where we're taking ownership, where we're getting 0% interest on these loans, principal only payments. There's a reason why we can get these profits is because we're able to solve challenge and understand the challenges that sellers facing. And by able to solve those challenges, you're able to then create profit or wealth from this. So I just wanted to hit on that. So it's really more about what to ask, because over time, and what we see with our associates and our students is they tend to speak less and ask more questions and listen more, the more advanced they get in the business.
Well, and think about this, Zach. You add the play that our staging design companies are usually working with sellers or working with the realtor, but thinking about a direct seller calling and us qualifying that lead and asking the right questions. Now, this may be an additional question, is the traditional route right for you? I mean, we literally have companies that are receiving calls from sellers. And sometimes before they've talked to the realtor, they just think that, oh, this is what I have to do. I have to stage, get my house ready. And then, the realtor, it'll be a great property. So really taking that lead down the right path by asking those extra questions, and you may have a deal right there that falls in your lap without taking them down that traditional, route.
Yeah, let's hit on 2 extremes right now too, because I want to bring the listeners to get clarity on these types of leads or prospects that they may already be speaking to. So on one extreme, it's roughly 1/3 of the houses in the United States are debt-free or debt-free. That means that these sellers, as they stand, do not need the equity in their property, which becomes a fantastic person to be for us to be a solution for, because the seller likes and trusts that asset. So now imagine if that seller could get paid on that asset for 5, 10, 20, 30 years by holding a mortgage and what we would call owner financing. And then now you're the owner, and now you have the ability to do with the asset what you want to do. So whether it's STR or rent to own, that'll be your choice, or long-term rentals. Then you have the other extreme. Right now, we have a large amount, like millions of people that were in forbearance are now, that arrear is being called due. Because the truth is, if that loan was going to be modified by the bank, it would have happened, 2 years ago, but it's not. So we're coming across a lot of that, where sellers are simply going to lose out on a large amount of equity or have their credit damaged for a long period of time, unless somebody can come in, catch up the arrears, and then take over the property. Those routes would typically be what we would call a subject to deal. We leverage the debt that's already in the property, we close on it, we take title, catch up the arrears, and now we build an equity in the property as well. And these tend to be long-term deals. So you have these 2 extremes, but also I know that in your business, you guys were looking for multis, and you're looking for potentially, ways do larger short-term rentals as well. Over the past 24-ish months, COVID has changed happy landlords to tired landlords in a pretty rapid manner. And unless you have really the long-term vision and you want to be a part of it, then you're tending to want to cash out right now. But when a landlord gets involved in buying a property, they have usually one idea in mind, which is they want to create cash flow. So you can, in some circumstances, I can't say all of them, depends on the financials. In some circumstances, you can create cash flow for that seller, and you can have additional cash flow and take ownership of it. So now you have the ability to help this person continue to do what they wanted to do, but now you actually have control of it as well. So you can help out so many tired landlords right now exit out their properties without getting a lump sum, especially if they want to continue to cash flow on this. So they can almost have their cake and eat it too. So just with those three different segments, I bet you guys are running across them already. And now it's what we teach to realtors, and certainly something that now you open my mind up to designs, is we teach realtors and say, hey, look, I can do one of two things. I can go ahead and list your property, and this is typically what you get. Or I can go ahead and buy your property if this solves your challenge more. And now you have the multiple option strategy because you're already in front of those people anyways. And now you can help them along and really morally and ethically give them all of the options so they can make the best decision for themselves.
Oh, it's genius. And I feel like that this is literally like a master's degree, when it comes to this master training and just the different creative ways that we can help people, but also create that portfolio of properties and the legacy play. And at the end of the day, I know that, we get up to my age at least, and we're like, okay, where are the multiple streams of income? That's absolutely the best, and passively, right? So I'm investing, and it does have infinite returns. And I know there's so much, and hopefully we've gotten everyone super excited about meeting you, Zach, in person. And the cool part is too, we don't have to wait till November to actually start this. We're going to be working with you. You already have some programs in place. I know I'm going to be one of the students. We have the opportunity. We've tried to do our own owner financing in the past. I've shared these stories with you. And, we had to do some deed in lieu of foreclosure. We had one person that literally ripped out the lights and just left it a shell, like the horror stories. And I know that you can help us avoid some of those pitfalls and challenges, because it is all in the learning and knowledge. So we're going to be working with Zach. We're going to get some programs so you guys can go ahead and get started. And then let's make Summit also testimony. I'm going to be one of those for sure. And we want to see you A players, you front row students, right? Like, let's go ahead and dive in. Zach, tell us, like, what is one thing we can do now besides getting the education? What's one thing that we can do to start moving our mindset from owner, servicing the industry, to now like being the business? Like, what's that shift look like? What's one thing that we can start doing?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So first, just before I forget, let me make sure that everybody listening to this gets a free copy of our Amazon bestselling book that we recently revised. So this is revised in COVID, post-COVID. So it's very relevant. So all you have to do is go to wickedsmartbooks.com/HSRA. That's wickedsmartbooks.com/HSRA. You'll actually see a full chapter at the beginning of my journey, because I went through way more rocks and ups and downs than I was able to describe there, and some of it may surprise you as well. Also, you'll see a lot of deal structures in there as well, so that way you can start wrapping your head around, oh, okay, I can understand the scenario of when I can help a seller. I can see how the 3 payday system works, and I can see how you guys are exiting these deals. When I look at what's the first step in really becoming a business owner, or starting to look at, how I get more in the investor box, as Sharon Lechter would say, the I, it's really just first understanding the current challenges. And I know I'm leading back to motivation, but understand the current challenges that sellers are facing right now, and that the dynamic of the market is really coming to a head. We're seeing market shifts, interest rates rising. So just really, and I don't want to lean back to education, but understanding first the dynamic, because then you're going to be able to see where your skill sets, where your natural abilities can come into play. Because really, business ownership is really just leveraging your strengths and surrounding yourself with people that support your weaknesses. Then once you do that and having the great team in place, then like you said, it's about creating those multiple streams of income, reoccurring income, and really having the business work for you and you not work for the business. Because at the end of the day, if we can really get our core team in place, no matter what, a business is people. If you can get your core team in place, you'll be able to step off the treadmill one day as well and let it run on its own, with your clearly articulating what the vision is going to be and have the right core values in place. So these are things that I could go off on. I love building businesses for hours and hours here, Jana, but I'll stop there. Just really understand the dynamics and then see where your skill set fits into place and surround yourself with amazing people that fit your weaknesses.
I love it. And get the book, because
That too.
Zach, thank you so much. I mean, to be able to give our listeners and our amazing community a free resource. So now, just because it's free, right, guys, doesn't mean that it does not have the content that's going to help you get from A to B, get that understanding, get that knowledge, start understanding too your area, what's outside, and what are the great opportunities. Just start looking at deals, start looking at real estate in a new creative way, as with investor eyes. And when you pair that with Grant, all the things that they're doing, you guys know we are full on within the real estate there, Brad Sumrock. Now you guys have access to Zach and what he's going to be able to do on that creative. It is a perfect marriage of all the things that we're teaching. When Zach puts his building block of information into everything that we're doing, it only makes sense. And I would say that listen to Zach first before you really start doing all of the, getting the big plays of LPGP. Like, start understanding this creative play, because you're going to look at real estate. You're going to look at it differently. You're going to look at the different deals. When you go in and stage properties, you design, you're going to start looking at that asset differently. I wonder what the reoccurring revenue could be on this property if I owned it. So get the knowledge, understand your local market, get plugged into all of the building blocks, especially what Zach's doing, and we can't wait. And stay tuned, because we're going to be doing some training with Zach to get you guys ready for Summit, and super excited about it. Zach, thank you so much today for sharing a little bit of these nuggets that you've learned and are implementing with our group.
No, I love it. I look forward to seeing everybody in November. Stay tuned in, stay plugged in, and you're gonna definitely see it as time well spent.
Love it. Awesome. We'll see you guys soon.